Colin Cowherd is one of my favorite people to listen to in this industry. Doesn't talk as much college football as maybe he used to, but even with that being said, I think he is, just to put it this way, I think he is as influential as anybody when it comes to this space. A lot of people that you see right now that do this kind of solo content, behind the mic, just riffing and giving opinions and takes, a lot of us have some small influence from seeing him do what he's done, whether it be at ESPN or Fox Sports, have nothing but admiration and respect for Colin Cowherd. Quick side note, quick story, I didn't tell at the top of the show, but I'll tell y'all right now during the segment. I interned my junior year going into my senior year of college for Fox Sports 1. I was working on another show that aired before Colin Cowherd's show, and so that meant once I got finished with my work, I had the access to go walk down to the studio and watch his show in real time, like off to the side of the set. And watching that dude work, man, like it was extremely, extremely cool. So all that to say, big fan of Colin Cowherd. He had a take, though, about Oklahoma that I thought was very interesting, one that we don't all the way agree with, but let's unpack it together because this kind of made waves across the college football landscape. Oklahoma fans, y'all were one of the first fan bases to subscribe to this channel, to this show, when we got things rolling. If you have not yet joined the party and subscribed, would love to have y'all on board. We appreciate y'all in advance for being dialed in. Colin Cowherd's take was that he thinks we should keep an eye on Oklahoma to potentially, the way that he put it, disappear like Nebraska disappeared over the course of the last few years. Now, full transparency, we think Nebraska's on their way back, so we'll leave that there. But he feels like there's a couple of things about Oklahoma with Brent Venables as the head coach and their move to the SEC that puts them at risk to potentially, again, as he says it, disappear. There's three factors that he addresses in his take of Oklahoma. The first is not fertile recruiting ground in Oklahoma. That's going to hurt them. He thinks they joined the wrong conference, and he believes they hired the wrong head coach in Brent Venables. So let's unpack this together. The first issue with what he had to say about Oklahoma is that they don't have fertile recruiting ground or access to top recruits. Like, the thing with Oklahoma now and why they've been successful over the course of the last however many years and will continue to be successful under Brent Venables is it's not just about Oklahoma when it comes to where they recruit. Like, I would argue Oklahoma is successful because of what they do on the recruiting trail in the state of Texas. I think that's the fertile recruiting ground that Oklahoma needs to attack. Obviously, when you can lock up a guy from Oklahoma and he's a top talent, like, obviously you have to be able to recruit Oklahoma. That's super important. But Oklahoma, like, when they've had a lot of success, usually those rosters are jam-packed with guys from the Lone Star State. And Oklahoma, too, just so we're on the same page, hasn't slowed down at all when it comes to recruiting. Like, if anything, moving to the SEC, which we'll talk about more in a second here, has only bolstered their efforts on the recruiting trail. Brent Venables, been there 2 years, 2 top 10 classes, one of which coming after a 6 and 7 year. So will they recruit effectively? This and that about Oklahoma? It's not about Oklahoma. It's about Texas. Also, I would say this. There is concern around, as they move to the SEC, it's a little bit more difficult to go see your kid play if you're playing in Gainesville, Florida, than it would be if you're playing in Waco, Texas for an away game. Totally fair point. What I would say, though, is today in college football, it has never been less important where you live as a recruit in terms of where you want to go to school. Some of that is NIL. Some of that is your ability to get developed and now go to the next level. That's a big part of it. But when it comes to coaches' efforts on the recruiting trail, I think the school you point to as the school that's kind of, I think, maybe changed the way that we view geography and recruiting is Oregon. Like, there is, not to knock Oregon now, it's not really a hotbed when it comes to recruiting. It's not. And I love the state of Oregon. However, if you want to find top talent, you got to go to California. You got to go to Texas. Got to go to Georgia and Florida. And Oregon right now having no issues with that. Currently, I believe right now has a top 10 class. I'd be surprised if they don't have a top 10 class on National Signing Day, the way that Dan Lanning is working. Like, NIL, and again, all the things that come with the new era of college football have made it to where geography does not matter nearly as much as maybe it used to. So even if you were going to die on that hill of, Oklahoma and their ability to recruit the state and things like that, I don't think that matters nearly as much as maybe it used to. The other thought here is that they joined the wrong conference. Let's unpack that. The thought is now, from Colin Cowherd, again, someone we have nothing but respect for, is that as they move into the SEC, the schedule will get harder. It'll become more difficult for them to be relevant because you're playing the Georgias, the Bamas, the LSUs, the Ole Misses, all of that. That's going to make it more difficult for them now to achieve what they want to achieve in the postseason. And what I would say is I see the point there because obviously the schedule becomes more difficult. Like the SEC, there's no way around it. It is a different beast. Totally true. However, in modern college football now, we have the expanded playoff. In the BCS, maybe that's true. It does hurt you to go 10-2 and miss out on playing for a national title, as opposed to maybe going 11-1, winning your conference, and then having a chance to play in the BCS. They let 12 teams into the college football playoff now. Okay? 12. 5 of those are conference champions. 7 of those are at-large spots. Y'all, who do you think is going to get most of the at-large spots year in and year out? I'd be willing to bet any amount of money over the course of the next 20 years, the SEC will have, the most at-large bids, 17 of those 20 years. Like, the schedule in itself being harder, obviously that makes it a lot harder to put together an undefeated season. But when it comes down to the at-large bids, it comes down to the 10-2s and the 9-3s. A 10-2 SEC team, unless another 10-2 SEC team gets in over them, they're getting in. Like 10-2 SEC will be a ticket puncher to the college football playoff. So yeah, the schedule is harder, but that's what you sign up for in the SEC. And as the schedule becomes more difficult, those are better reference points for you. We hate this word, but those are better losses, quote unquote, for you when it comes to your college football playoff resume. So actually, I'd much rather be in the SEC than the Big 12 in modern college football. Yeah, the money's one part of it, but honestly, if I want to make the college football playoff, I just have to go win 10 football games. In the Big 12, I probably have to win my conference to get in. Like, I don't think we're getting that large bid this season from the Big 12. Again, not to knock the Big 12. That's just the way that I see it shaking out. So that's the whole thing with the wrong conference. I don't think that's really the case. Also, sidebar, Oklahoma, the standard is the standard, which is a cliche thing to say, but like even if they were in the Big 12, even if they were in the ACC, like the expectation is when your conference, more importantly, go compete for national titles. They want to play against the best. I have not heard one person from the Oklahoma fan base be like, man, I wish we hadn't joined the SEC. Nobody's saying that. They want all the smoke, and good for them. God bless them. The last point here, and this is one that I think I probably feel most strongly about, is he thinks they will not be successful going forward, does Colin Cowherd, because he believes Oklahoma hired the wrong coach. The reason why he feels that way, not so specific to Brent Venables and how he operates, more specific, I believe, to his background. He cites the fact that he's a defensive head coach in a more offensive era. I think in the NFL that's true. I think you do have to hire an offensive head coach. However, we're in college football. And look at the coaches that are having success right now. I don't think it matters what side of the football you're on. Like, yeah, Steve Sarkisian at Texas, that's absolutely true. Kalen DeBoer, absolutely true. Having success, offensive coaches. How about Kirby Smart? Winning 2 national titles in the last 3 seasons. He is as defensive a coach as it gets. He's developed and evolved on the offensive side for sure, but like, defensive guy. All right? Brian Kelly, I believe, has a pretty strong emphasis on the defensive side as well. A better example, Dan Lanning. I've said it before. I think it's just a matter of time before he wins a national championship at Oregon. Period. Mic drop. Like, I think he's going to win a national title in the next 3 years. I don't think it's so much about being defensive or offensive at the collegiate level. I think it's about, are you willing to and able to recruit? And then do you have the right structure and processes in place on the back end of that to develop and then execute on Saturdays? I think Brent Venables is that guy. And just so we're clear here now, we've ruffled some feathers with the folks in Norman. Like, I had Oklahoma going 6-6 this year, and the good people in my mentions in the comment section will not let me forget it, and I appreciate you for that. God bless you. But I think Oklahoma long-term is in great shape. That was one of the reasons why you heard me be like, yeah, if you know Brent Venables is your guy for the long haul, extend him. Do it. I love it. This year, we should not put all the stock into, okay, well, this is who Oklahoma is in the SEC. It's a transitional year. New O-line, new quarterback. Tough schedule. Pretty straightforward. If they have success, then you feel even better about the future under Brent Venables. Even if they do go 6-6 this year, even if they do go 7-5 this year, 8-4, like, I'm not worried about Oklahoma in the long haul. Actually, because of all the reasons why Colin Cowherd cited them potentially being in trouble, I think that's the exact reason why you feel good about Oklahoma. Because they can recruit. They recruit Texas. Brent Venables has proven he will and can recruit. 2 top 10 classes in 2 years. Book it. They joined the wrong conference? I don't think so. I think the SEC is only going to elevate them as college football continues to evolve. They will be in contention if they have 9 to 10 wins for a college football playoff spot. It's not the case in the Big 12 or the ACC. Hate to say it, but that's just not the case. I think they got the right head coach. For what I said about recruiting, and all that's true, he matches what Oklahoma wants. Tough, gritty, culture, intense. I love it. So, again, nothing but respect for Colin Cowherd. And we're not all that high in Oklahoma this season, but I do believe that Oklahoma will be more than fine here in the future. I think Brent Venables is going to be the guy for a long time, personally, in Norman, Oklahoma. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.